But remember, it fell 3.4% yesterday as Jensen Huang took to the stage, unveiling a whole host of new AI improvements, chips that move from the Blackwell Ultra onto Vera Rubin. We used to also get a new scientist name for the next iteration. But Tim, it didn't wow investors, it feels.
It didn't. There's always today, and there's always the rest of the week. For more on NVIDIA, Mandeep Singh of Bloomberg Intelligence joins us now. Mandeep, there's this narrative emerging that AI costs are just getting out of control. What did we see yesterday? What did you see yesterday from NVIDIA that said to customers, you're getting more value out of what we're bringing you?
Well, one, there was a clear shift towards reasoning, and the fact that he said reasoning requires 100 times more compute. So from that perspective, the demand trends seem to be reassuring coming from NVIDIA, and clearly they are ahead when it comes to the performance per watt that everyone seems to be focused on with these chips. And look, you could argue, there isn't a new end market on the horizon, even though they announced, the partnership with GM, or the humanoids was part of the keynote as well. But to me, it's still all about data centers and servers. And they seem to have a very clear roadmap till 2027 in terms of what kind of performance improvements they're looking with the next version of their chips.
I think Vera Rubin expected to 3x the improvements on Blackwell Ultra. We get Feynman being the next name for the future platform of focus. But look, analysts are overall once again declaring that the moat is strong. They're maybe 8 years ahead of the competition if you're talking to certain hyperscalers. What more can he do to juice what's currently in the valuation right now?
Well, so if you look at the trajectory of NVIDIA's numbers, they've always moved to the upside because they have come up with something new, or an additional customer that is of the same ramp up.
Photons not new enough for that?
Well, so you have to look at the hyperscale investment, and they are all developing their own ASICs. So the fact that you have competition on the horizon, even though NVIDIA is way ahead of everyone else in terms of performance, but you just can't rule out the fact that ASICs are a real possibility. That's what Broadcom called out. And to me, that competitive environment will get challenging. And look, they made the pivot to reasoning after DeepSeek. This wasn't 6 months back. It was all about pre-training. The keynote this time around was all about inferencing and reasoning. So they're very good at making those pivots. But the fact is the market keeps evolving. And I think ASICs are still a real threat when it comes to NVIDIA sales at the data center level. Yes, it's a $1 trillion market, but who can give the assurance that it will be NVIDIA who captures most of that end market? Because your competition is the 4 or 5 main hyperscalers that are still looking to develop that ASIC option.
Frenemies continue. Mandeep Singh of Bloomberg Intelligence. Love having him. Meanwhile, a wider investor look now at NVIDIA and some of the others in the chip sector. Kim Forrest, Bokeh Capital Partners CIO, joins us. And Kim, we mentioned how their own clients are becoming their competitors, not to mention AMD still trying to be an also-ran in this space, not to mention Intel really languishing. But can NVIDIA remain the king when it comes to AI?
Well, maybe. I think it's a strong maybe there. And maybe they do rule the hardware world, or a lot of it, because, there really is no substitute right now. Here's the thing, though. Human beings are incredibly inventive. And NVIDIA, although they always trot out the fact that they have software that developers may use, I think the very largest developers that are using these chips are writing their own software, not depending on CUDA. So keep that in the back of your mind. But I believe what DeepSeek has shown the investing world is there's more than one way to skin a cat, and just throwing really expensive chips and tons of chips at a problem is not always the answer. So I'm looking out there for innovation in the software world to make the build out of a data center a little less key into developing AI in the future. So more software, less hardware.
Kim, do you think that the market has fully priced in the impact of DeepSeek?
No, actually. And I think this is a really difficult area to talk about AI without really nerding out. So let's keep it at the 50,000 foot level.
This is
I
a show
don't
to
know
nerd
that
out on,
people-
Kim. This is a show to nerd out on, just saying.
Yeah, but okay, I'm trying to restrain myself. But here's what I see is the essential problem, is there are limitations in the physical world, power, how quickly you can build a data center, how quickly you can build chips, the machines that create these exotic chips, how quickly you can build that. It's all a physical world problem. In many ways, software is exactly what we've used in the past to become more productive. And why not use it on AI itself to use these data centers that we already have and rethink the software and the training, testing, and validation kind of exercises we do to build large language models? Why not make that better by better software? Crazy.
Well, you have the background to nerd out on this because before finance, you spent more than a decade working on this stuff. I mean, this was 20 years ago. So you've been thinking about this stuff for a long time. But now, do the economics of inference work? Do the economics of agentic models work right now?
I don't think so, because they're so expensive to build, and it doesn't look like people are lining up to buy it. I mean, is it really that simple? I think the answer is yes. I have not been convinced that there's a strong enough problem that can be easily identified and thus monetized in AI. Do I think it's the future? Absolutely. But I think that businesses who have to put their assets at risk buying this stuff and then using it, and remember, a lot of large language models are 85 to 95% correct, and that is underwhelming, if you're going to build your business on something that's incorrect, 10 to 15% of the time.
Yeah.
These are real world problems that we have to get unexcited about and fix. And again, my answer is software, because that's that's my book. I know that area, as opposed to building better hardware.
Well, go to the software, go to the newly released open source software, Dynamo, and look, there's crowing that makes DeepSeek's R1 30x faster when you run this new open source software being offered by NVIDIA. So are they not adapting quickly enough? Because it certainly feels as though they've got an answer for everything.
Well, I think what we really have to do is faster is better, right? But then how do we stop wrong answers? That's where the humans have to come in and kind of build stuff around that to wall off the bad answers. And, whenever I was doing this back in the late 90s, that's where a lot of our time was spent on refining the models, was to make sure that we weren't returning bad answers. And I don't really see that as a focus. And again, I'm talking my book, what I know, and it's still a problem. That's the crazy thing. 30 years later, wrong answers are still a problem.
Kim Forrest of Bokeh Capital Partners. Kim, always great to check in with you. Appreciate you joining us today.